Hi guys, thanks for joining us to our decoupage tray that we are going to do in this kit. It's a take-home kit, and I'm going to show you what you do. So in your kit, you will get, this is what it'll look like when you're done. And in your kit, you're going to get a tray, which is like this. You should get a couple handles, a couple brushes. Depending on which tray you got, this one we're doing is the raw silk, so we got a thing of raw silk here, and we got a container of the cappuccino, the dark brown, which we're going to do for some distressing, and you should get a container of decoupage. The first thing we need to do is paint our tray, and you will just take one of the 1-inch foam brushes. You're going to dip your paint into the container, wipe a little bit of it off. I like to do the outside edges first, so you're just gonna do the outside edge. And thin coats are much better than too thick of a coat. I'm just gonna go around and do the outside edge. There we go. And right around here. I have my tray sitting on some paint sticks. If you guys got a few paint sticks at home to set your tray on, because you do get paint on the outside edge and it'll stick to the paper if you got it on, or your table, and it'll just cause a mess. So if you have some paint sticks would be great. I'm just gonna get the outside edge here. And not sure, we just got these this tissue paper in from Prima Redesign. It is not like your normal tissue paper that rips and tears. This stuff is a little bit thicker. Carol will show you that when she gets to that point. And you shouldn't get any creases in it also. There. Just gonna paint my handles here now. Just nice thin coats, back and forth. Some people like to tend to go heavy on the paint. You don't want to go heavy. If you put too much paint in, you'll see a lot of brush marks. And it takes longer for it to dry. And then I just do the sides and get into the corner there. Do that. And do this side. There, just like that. Now I'm going to do the flat surface. You might have to take your brush and kind of get into that little groove. Good. I'm just kind of pushing it on, and then I'll do nice long strokes when I'm done. It does dry quick, so you don't want to go too far back if it's starting to dry, because then you're going to get brush marks. And
your tissue paper is going to be covering up
most
of this
that
paint, except your sides. So really, you don't have to be super fussy with that surface, because your tissue paper goes over top.
I'm just going to grab this. And if you have a blow dryer at home and you want to speed up the process, once you got it all one coat, you can give it a blow dry and it'll speed up the process, which is what we're going to do, but you don't have to do that at home.
And you can just adhere your tissue paper to raw wood, but what we found with the tissue paper is your background color is a little bit important, because it's going to either make it pop, or it might even, if you don't have the right color underneath, your flowers may not stand out as much, or things like that. So that's why we're painting it underneath, just so that the tissue paper will pop once we put it on.
Okay, I am going to give this a little blow dry. Okay, so we got one coat completely on there and it's dry. You will also get a piece of sandpaper in there, and you might just want to sand the edges of the raw wood, because once you add paint, the wood kind of fibers out. So you can fold your sandpaper in half just like this and just kind of get the raw edges. Like that. And then once you feel it, it'll be nice and smooth. And you can check the surface of your tray too, and if it's really rough, just give it a sand, make it nice and smooth. Yeah, much better. And I'll just give this a quick sand. All good. So now we're going to give a second coat. You actually, because we are putting the tissue paper on most of this surface and most of where the handles go, we don't really have to paint the whole surface. We just need to do the edge of it. Whew, just about tip that. So we'll do the outside edge. Just like this. Going to get on the inside of there, because we're not putting any tissue paper on the inside of the handle where the handle goes. And you want to make sure that you got paint in that little groove also. And just brush it out if it's too thick. And then just kind of on the outside edge of the handle. And if you get the whole thing, that's fine too. We are going to do some dry brushing on it too, so you might have some dark spots in there anyway.
So Sandy, does it help to dab in some of those areas?
Yeah, with the foam brush,
like in here, to get into there.
To get into the groove. It is plywood, so you want to get inside there. Okay. And then if you had time, we're not going to do it in this video right now, but you should have enough paint to paint the back. You can put a coat of paint on the back of your tray also. But I'm not going to do it here, just for video purposes. We're not going to. And I'll just get in there. And into the grooves. There. Now we're going to let that dry for half an hour. Let the paint dry. And then we are going to apply the tissue paper.
Hi, it's Carol now. I'm going to be showing you how to apply decoupage and the tissue paper over top. The first thing you're going to have to do though before we get into that process is you want to get a pair of scissors. And since we want it to have an aged look, we want to make the sides a little bit jagged or curved. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But when you put it down, you can see here, you're going to have some curved edges that it looks like it's aged. If you want to keep it straight, you can, but I'm going to curve it. These edges along where the handles are, you don't really need to do those because you're not going to see those as much. But again, if you want to, you can. So what I suggest is you just just make some curves. You can't tear it. I've tried tearing it because I thought that would look a little more natural, but it just won't work. I don't do the whole thing. I want to keep some straight edges too, just so that it doesn't look like it's too planned. You know, just do some little areas here and there. If you want to come in a little bit more, some points, whatever you want to do, it's your creativity. Okay, so you can see. So both sides now, you can see how they're, you know, kind of jagged. That's where we're going to be applying our dry brushing so that it does look a little more aged. So I'll show you right now how.
We want to do all those pieces first?
You want to do all 4 pieces. Okay. Yes, good question. So I have all 4 pieces cut along the edges how I want them to go on. So yes, you do want to do that. Okay, so we're going to use our foam brush, and I think I'm going to start on this side. So this is when Sandy was painting, she was saying, you know, you don't have to on your second coat get in this area right here, or even in the center here. That's because your tissue paper is going to be going over top and you won't see it. But as we said, the background color was important because it just, the raw silk with this tissue paper, it just makes it show up that much better than if we were to do it on raw wood. But you can decoupage onto raw wood. So I'm just getting an even coat.
And you can brush in any direction.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it dries clear. So if, you know, you're worried about, oh, I got a little bit over here and I don't want it to show, it's not going to show. It's going to dry clear. So then I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to place it down. Now, the nice thing with this tissue paper is you can lift it up. If you've ever decoupaged with napkins, once you put it down, you can't lift it up because it'll just rip. But this, you can. So I'm just gonna smooth it out. And then I'm gonna take my foam brush, my decoupage, and I'm gonna go over top. And if you're in a well-lit area, you can actually see the shimmer where you're putting your decoupage on, that you would be able to know if you've missed a spot. Your outer edges are probably the most important to get, but you do want to cover the whole thing.
And when you're doing the top, do you kind of want to push it in, kind of?
Yeah, but you know what? It's there's really not much to push in because it smooths out so nicely that it doesn't bubble. Like you can see, like it's totally flat when I'm putting this on. So like I said, your outer edge, you want to get the whole thing, but just make sure your outer edges are good. Okay, so I think this one's pretty good.
And so you're just going to do one section at a time? Is that how you're going to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
So pretty.
So like, I don't want to put decoupage on all my 4 areas because, you know, by the time I did this one would have been, wouldn't be tacky enough. Now, when you're doing your handles here, Sandy's put screw holes in for your handles. You're going to be going over top, but you'll be able to feel those once you put your tissue paper on, or you might be able to actually see the holes too. So I've got my decoupage in this area. I've already cut, so it looks like it's aged. I'm going to put it on. So I can feel the one, I can actually see this hole and I can feel this hole. If you're worried that you're not going to, what you could always do is just grab a pencil after you've painted and just go around them, just so they're darker, so that when you put your tissue paper over top, you're going to be able to see them.
Good idea.
And these foam brushes that Sandy has in the store, they are much more durable than your regular foam brushes. Like they, you know, a lot of foam brushes, you'll get them and by this time they'd be all flimsy and falling apart and the foam would be coming off in little bits, but these ones work really well. So I'm gonna go over top. So again, kind of in my light, I can see if I missed, and I'm just gonna go around the edges, but okay, so I've done my 3 and I'm gonna go to my last area now. So I've got a little bit thicker there, so I'm gonna go like this and I'm gonna try to drag it out because I had it a little thick there. And I don't have to go right to the edge. I have to go close to the edge, but not right to the edge because the paper is in a little bit. So you can decide which way, like with one of your pieces, you're gonna have writing. So you can say to yourself, do I want the writing going this way? Or do I want the writing going this way? Which way, ladies? Does it matter?
No, I don't think it matters. Because you never know which angle you're going to hold the tray in anyway.
No. True. So like you can see by putting it down, like I'm not getting any bubbles at all. It just lays down.
Really cool.
It lays so nicely once you place it on that decoupage.
Is this a fusion project, the decoupage?
No, this is a Prima redesign. They also make the tissue paper and they make the paint, the transfers, the furniture transfers that we have in the store. And we just got them in, so we're excited to try some new projects with them.
And there's lots of pretty designs.
So how long do you have to wait for this glue to dry?
Well, what I'm going to suggest is with this brush that you're going to wash it. So what that means, did you see how this one just flipped up a little bit? So like when I went over it,
I don't know if we saw that.
Well, do you see how it's coming up there?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do is just rub it down with my finger.
Go over top.
And then just go over. But see, when I go this way,
Yeah,
I'm dragging it up.
I see that.
So I would just go this way. Like
And
just
once
make
it dries, it will
yeah.
sort
But-
itself out.
So sometimes if I'm going this way and see, every time I go this way, I'm dragging it up, just go that one way so that it's not going to be sticking up.
Is this a glue then?
It's
This white product?
decoupage. Yeah, it's kind of like a glue. It's a sealant also. So people will often ask, is it the same as Mod Podge? And yes, basically it is. So as I was saying, I would wash your brush. So all you're going to do is take it to your sink, use a little bit of dish soap and wash, squeeze it and get all of the stuff out. And then when you come, if you have a rag, it's better. But if you only have paper towel, once you've washed it, you're just going to put it, squeeze out as much as you can with your hand, then put it in between and squeeze again so that this is as dry as possible. And I would probably let this dry, I'm going to say a half an hour. Again, if you want to speed up the process, you can use a blow dryer because this won't shrink with the heat or anything like that. So we're just going to stop it here. We're going to wash our brush and then we'll come back and we'll do some aging with some paint.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so it's dry now. You're going to have some decoupage left. You want to make sure you put enough on, but you don't want it that, you can see globs of it on there. You want to even it out. And with that leftover, you're going to be getting a piece of paper that you're going to say, what is this for? Because it doesn't match any of the sizes. Well, what we did is from the one sheet that we have, we gave you the leftover that we didn't use. So what I did with it is I cut it to fit this jar, and then I used the decoupage and I applied it on here, and then I just added some decorative and put a votive in there for a candle, or you can put some greenery, but you know, you still have that little piece that we gave you. If you want to play around and try it on something, you can. So now we've applied the 4, we've washed the brush. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to squeeze it in between the paper towel just to get the excess off. And we're going to use a dry brush method to make it look aged. Now, how much you do of this is totally personal to you. So you're going to dip it in, and you do not want a lot on your brush. You just want a little bit on your brush. And you can take a paper towel, and this is called offloading. And so I've just, as soon as I put it on there, you can see that big glob. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the edges. So you can kind of hold this at an angle, and I'm just going to go around the edges. And then I actually use my finger quite a bit. And I'm not going to go all the way down because when something ages, it's not consistent. And I'm just going to go along the edge here. And again, and then I'm going to dab along this edge a little bit, and then I'm going to smear it in. So I'm going right into my tissue paper a little bit. Here I didn't, but here I did, and then it kind of accentuates the edge there. And so I'm just going to do that again. I'm just going to go along here and use my finger. And I can get a little bit on my tissue paper here because then it looks like it's aged in there too. And I'm going to just dab a little bit. Go along the edge. And you can do as much or as little as you like. So I want to even it out a little bit in here. So I'm just going to dab, rub it around a little bit. So it's just playing basically with your brush. And then I'm just going to put some right on my tissue paper in here, just to age it there. Dab some off. I'm going to go a little bit on my tissue paper in there. So you can see by rubbing it, it just makes it darker in there, and you can see the edge of your tissue paper a little bit more. And then I'm going to go over to this side. And if you're getting tired of watching me, if you rewind the video a little bit, you can see that Sandy had a little bit of a problem with her apron when she first put it on. We won't tell you what it is, but we'll see if you look back in the video, if you can see what Sandy did with her apron. It was actually, she did it on purpose because she wanted to see if you guys were really paying attention. So you can even go into your tissue paper a little bit. So let's say I want to go into here a little bit. I'm just going to put a little bit in there so it looks aged in that spot.
What happens if you get too much on?
Well, I don't think you're going to be able to actually get a lot of it off. The more you rub it, probably if do you want to grab a little bit of water in a container, Sandy, and then we'll see if, you know, if you wet your finger and rubbed it, you're not going to get it off your tissue paper. Once you have this paint on the tissue paper,
Soak right in there.
it's going to stay in there. But I don't think there's a right way and a wrong way of doing this, because with aging, it's never a consistent thing. It's, you know, so I'm going to put a little bit in here just to make it look aged right there. And your handles are going here, so I don't need, so I'm just going to age it in there a little bit. Like I said, it's personal preference. And then I'm gonna go all along the edge on the inside here. I'll do the other side, Patty, so you can see what I mean.
Okay.
So you don't need much paint on your brush at all. You really want to offload quite a bit.
It doesn't look like she's using hardly any paint.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna go all the way along here. Use my finger. And then I'm gonna go along my groove because I want to accentuate that groove. Again, I wouldn't do it consistent. Do it darker in some areas, lighter in others, so that it doesn't look like it's so planned. And then I'm gonna do like I did before. I'm gonna go around my edges. And I'm gonna add some aging to it. I'm gonna go along the edge of my tray itself, along here again, just like I did along here.
Is there a right side and a wrong side to the
No.
tissue paper? You just
No.
put it down however you want.
Now, with the writing, you'd have to be careful with your writing,
Okay.
but this one, nope, there's no right or wrong way.
Okay. It's the same on both sides.
Yep. Okay.
That would be my luck. I would put it upside down. So.
But the nice thing about it though is if you put it down and you go, oh my God, I put the wrong side down, you can lift it up right away.
Oh, okay. That's good to know too. I guess
Because it
you're
won't
putting
tear.
Right, and you're putting the product on both sides.
Yes. So
Oh, okay.
you put it down and you go, oh, it's upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's dry, of course, you can't do
No.
anything about it, but at that point you could lift it up and it wouldn't
Okay.
rip. So
Okay.
that's the nice thing about it is
Good to know.
you have that work time with it that if you wanted to change it up, you could. So like if you want to bring your, just very lightly kind of rub it on and then it gives it that aged look. So it's just not on the edges, it's within the center and so forth.
And I guess if you liked your tray without any of the aging
Oh, yeah.
on, you don't have to do it. Right?
No, definitely not.
You could have stopped at the last step.
So there I think too much. So I wet my finger. It's not going to do much on here, but let's say I put too much there. You can wet your finger
Oh yeah, I see it.
on the wood.
Pretty much right off of the wood.
Yeah, but you can't do that with the tissue paper. So if I had that, I think what I would do is I would work it so that it looks like it's, I'm just going to bring this out. So it's just, it's dark there, but it gets lighter so that it looks like it's a little more planned. Okay. So then I'm gonna do along here also. So I'm gonna, again, run my brush. I don't want it to be consistent. So I'm just gonna run it here and there. This is where you know, if you want to switch it up a little bit with the water on your finger, you could, because it'll wipe. And I'm just going to add, so you've got that. So I'm going to do that on all four sides.
Oh, there we can see it a little better this way. Too tall. It completely changes the look of it.
Yeah. And if there was some spots on the wood, they could probably use some of the raw silk and touch it up too.
Yep, for sure.
They'd have leftover raw silk on their
Right.
leftover paint from their base coat.
then of course I'm not going to worry about the bottom because people aren't going to see. At least I don't think they would.
It would be odd, I think, for a tray. But you don't know.
No.
Okay, so then just look it over, and if you think there's areas that you need to, you know, do a little bit more aging with your brush, like I said, you can do it with the onto your tissue paper. And then it doesn't always have to be around the edges too, like you might have some aging in the center a little bit. Personal preference. You don't need much on your brush at all. So that's why you can use the brush that you use for the decoupage, is because you're really not putting much paint on it at all. I think that's...
That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have our handles.
Does this need to dry at all, or we're just set to?
This will be pretty well dry
Okay.
once you're...
Because you weren't, the paint's not much.
Right, yeah, it's really... So what you would do is you take your handles, you mark your holes. Sandy has started the holes, and you're just going to use...
Cute screwdriver.
Poke it in. Doesn't take much at all to put them on. So you do that on both sides. And there's your
Nice.
beautiful tray. We hope you
That's
enjoyed
really
the
good.
workshop. If you have any questions, you can always phone the store also.
873-5100.